Hi, everybody. This is Joe Paulson and Andy Hruby with the AgView Pitch. And today we're gonna, I guess we're gonna try and expand upon the Andy Hruby and Joe Paulson story. How's it going today, Andy?
It's going good. How are you, Joe?
Lovely. Wet.
Another rainy day.
Another rainy day.
Yeah, that's same here. It's no point in even talking about how much rain we've got. It's just too much. So one of these days it'll all come together. Not too stressed out about it yet. We've been able to have a nice start, but just as the calendar days tick away, it just feels like the pressure starts coming on that all this work's gonna compound on top of each other. But we'll manage through it. We always seem to.
Yep. Yep. That kind of feeling of pressurizing, as the days click off and the rain forecast gets worse and 2019 wasn't too long ago.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think
that's
everybody's got a little PTSD from that in my neighborhood anyway.
yeah. No, I think that's a good point. But Joe, you and I were talking after our introduction podcast with Chris and Shay that we thought it would be a good idea to go into a little more detail about ourselves and what our operations look like to help give listeners a little better perspective. So I think that's what we want to try to accomplish today is to kind of open everybody's eyes up to what we have going on and what our operations look like so we can provide benefit to the listeners in any way, or if there's any similarities or things that pique their interest in what we're doing that they know a little more and know who to contact to help.
I completely agree. I think it gives better context of not that we're oracles of information, but we have some experiences that we're more than happy to share and talk through. I mean, that's the whole point of AgView. So,
Correct.
yep.
Yep.
So we're gonna start with uh drilling you
Okay.
on what all you got going on. And we're gonna start with college. Where
Okay.
where'd you where'd you go to where'd you grow up and then where'd you end up going to college?
Yeah. So once again, Andy Hruby. I grew up in Fremont, Michigan, which is Western Michigan, about an hour north of Grand Rapids and about a half hour east of Muskegon. So Fremont's claim to fame is the home of Gerber baby food. So that's where Gerber baby food comes from. A lot of small dairies, 80 to 200 cow dairies. There's a lot of them up in that geography. As time's grown on there, obviously that industry's been progressive and they've grown, but when I was growing up, that was a rough size. And then a large variety of crops from fruits to vegetables to row crops, a lot of alfalfa also. So growing up, I wanted to milk cows. That's what I thought I wanted to do. My dad milked cows and got out of the dairy industry when I was young, but we always had a passion for dairy. As I went through school, the passion for row crop farming really came on in high school, working for a cash crop farmer in the area all through high school. And that's when I graduated high school, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted a row crop farm. Didn't have a family farm to go back to, so I had to look for an opportunity. I went to Michigan State, got a degree in ag business management, did a variety of things in the summers. But probably the one that got me to where I'm at today was I did an internship on a large cash crop farm here in Northeast Indiana, spraying and scouting. That was my first summer internship. Kept in contact, and my senior year, they said, "Hey, we want a day-to-day operations manager to come in and help us. My dad wants to slow down. I really don't want to fill those shoes. Want to bring in somebody young." So I had the opportunity there to come down to where I'm at today and still do some work with that operation and help them on a kind of the larger scale decision making stuff, input procurement, Still do logistics in the fall and field coordinating in the spring. That was kind of my introduction to production ag, I guess would be, full time on the farm there. So that's where it all started.
So you basically went right out of college into essentially farm managing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what was that like? Was that were you like, holy shit, this is gonna be, you know,
Yeah, it's I look back on it now and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It's I think everybody kind of has those thoughts. You think you do and you learn a lot quick. I was lucky enough that the operation I was with was patient. They're willing to teach me on a lot of things, mainly around people management. I'd say that was the hardest learning curve. Um, the equipment, the crops, you kind of learn that stuff growing up and in school and things like that. But managing people's what really makes the operation click. And we use the analogy a lot. It doesn't matter if you go around the tree to the left or the right, as long as you get around the tree. And that really applied for us is, there's a lot of things that I did that they wouldn't have done them that way, but at the end of the day, it didn't matter. It got done and it got done correctly and nobody got hurt, most importantly. So yeah, it's I've spent the last 15 years in full full blown production ag and I guess it would have been a year out of college. I had an opportunity to pick up a channel seed dealership. So that was my kind of value added business, first business I had started on my own. Still currently operate that independently from the farm. But I just, I moved to an area I didn't know anybody. I had friends in the seed industry from previous internships and had a passion for talking with other farmers. So I thought, well, this is a great way for me to get my name out and to meet a lot of people in the area.
oh, 100%. And going back to that people managing part, I mean, that's and your employer being patient with you and allowing you to fail a little bit,
It's a
you
very good
know,
way of putting it. Yep.
people, I've heard that a lot from different farmers about their kids. Well, I don't want them to fail. Well, you don't want them to fail big, but having some failure is a fantastic teacher, and you know, that's fantastic that they allowed you to, kind of grow into that role and be patient with you. I mean, that's what an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a great opportunity right out of school and you kind of, jump both feet in and learn a lot really quickly. So that's, I think that's really helped me get to where we're at today and be able to manage all the balls we're juggling is just starting young and kind of getting those some of those once in a lifetime. I shouldn't say once in a lifetime. Those failures, let's learn them young, and then we can rebound quickly from them when we're young. So I think that's
Uh-huh.
a lot.
That does help a lot. So you also run a custom chopping business. Where did that play into? I mean, that seems like that kind of came out of nowhere to a point.
Yeah, yeah, it did. So obviously, growing up around a lot of dairies, I had been involved in help with silage harvest a bunch growing up. Um, about a half hour to the east of us, there is a large dairy, and I ran into the farm manager the fall of 2014, and they were very frustrated with the current custom harvester at the time. And I just said, "What are you guys looking for? Just tell me more about it." And he went into a little more detail, and December rolled around, and they said, this is something I would be interested in if you guys are serious about looking elsewhere. And so yeah, it was just kind of a snowball from there. Was we'd sat down, we talked more about it. They told us what their expectations were, and we jumped in with both feet. Bought 3 choppers and mowers and mergers and hired trucks out, and they had the packing tractors. And spring of 2015, we just jumped in and said, well, let's figure this out. We brought in a key employee and one of my partners today on our collaboration who had a lot of chopping experience working on custom harvest crews in Texas. So that helped a lot. He kind of grabbed the bull by the horns of, hey, I'll man the chopper. I know what this is all about. You handle mowing and merging and some of the logistics stuff behind that. And it's just really been a team approach. So, we started with that one dairyman that had 3 dairies. So that was our kind of our first key customer. And from there to today, we've grown to 8 customers, and we're chopping in Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. We're very close to all those state lines. So our furthest dairy is about an hour and 15-minute drive in the truck. So everybody comes home at night. I think that's really important for us and just seems to help a lot with morale, is that everybody can at least sleep in their own bed every night. I don't know if we're done growing or not. We're not actively pursuing more chopping work just for the size we're at. If the right opportunities come about, yeah, we'll definitely entertain them. But we've just grown it to a comfortable size that fits well with the farm side and with the seed business and the chopping, kind of the 3 together. It's just been a nice mix.
There's some diversity there.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I like how you got talking to that dairyman. And, it's amazing if you give a person the opportunity to tell you their problems, they will. And, if you can provide solutions, there's generally money to be made there. And, you know, that's awesome that you were able to, seize that opportunity and then grow it some and, add some diversity.
Yeah, and it's really opened the doors for a lot of other things too. Just you meet other farmers in the area and start a working relationship with them. For us, we don't hire, or we hire almost all our trucking done. Actually, this year we'll only have a couple trucks on and the rest will be hired out. And the majority of those hired trucks are other area farmers that, just from a timing standpoint, works out good. They can come help us for silage harvest, and we wrap that up right before they'll start grain harvest. Provides a little extra income for them, and we don't have to put all that capital in equipment and come up with employees for 3 or 4 weeks of a super busy push. So it's been kind of ironic how that's worked out. And it seems like as we keep going down that road, more and more people reach out and say, hey, if you ever need a truck, or if you ever need a tractor to pack or something like that, give me a call. And we even got one farm that had their own chopping business also, and just said, hey, we took on a dairy in 22 that was more than we could bite off, and just said, hey, you guys just want to run together. Let's work together at this. And it's been great, and we continue to do that today. So a lot of alliances, I would say. They're not full-blown collaborations, but definitely a lot of alliances and working together with a bunch of operations.
There's huge value in that, kind of like you said, the not having to, well, you're building this community of, hey, we're competitors to a point and maybe some places, but that doesn't mean that we can't work together and can't benefit. And like you said, I mean, to have that many trucks to meet all your needs, to hire all those people and then all that outside capital, it's like, there's something to be said for, when you hire somebody to come in, it comes with the machine, the man, the fuel, there's a lot to be said for bringing
Yeah,
people in.
exactly. And I guess, to give a little perspective on that, we're running 5 choppers, and in the heat of corn harvest, it's 35 to 40 trucks every day. So there's a lot of people involved. So it was, some of it was done out of necessity. Actually, I would say just about all of it was done out of necessity, but what you do out of necessity, sometimes it's crazy the relationships that are formed and what it really turns into.
Oh, yeah. So, you also have, just here in the last year or two, correct? You've formed another collaboration, beyond, the original farm that uh, originally went to work for. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so an area farmer across the county in 2020 had a full-on transition plan. I mean, his plan was in place, had some great guys in there. Um, one of them gave him a 15-month notice that he was going to go farm with his in-laws, just a, kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity he couldn't pass up. And then the other one was hit by what Chris would say the beer truck and passed away unexpectedly. So here he was 73 at the time, 72, 73, and his transition plan was gone. We knew him. We'd harvested some of his crops that he had sold to a dairy farm that was right next door that we custom harvest for. So we knew the operation some. We actually knew the junior partners a lot better than we did the senior partner. And so yeah, so Darren and I and Darren's the one that helped us get the chopping going, and he's my partner in the collaboration up there. And we just went to him and said, "Hey, we're interested. We're young. We want to grow our personal farms, and we want to work together somehow." And I had met Chris at TPAP in the past and a few other meetings, and I just thought, "Hey, let's bring somebody like this in to help us figure this out." And so we did that right from the gate, and we laid out the structure in 2020. And in, I guess it was 21, we laid out everything and we took it really slow. So 21 would have been our first year farming up there on a very small scale. He rented Darren and I each a couple hundred acres, said, "Hey, let's just test the waters." Darren worked for him hourly, just to learn kind of the mechanics of the operation of. I was like, how do they operate? Everybody's got their own little quirks and things they do a certain way. And just to kind of see how everybody would get along. And then 22 was full blown collaboration. That winter of 21, we got everything legal done and entities set up and, you know, um, purchased the equipment company and things like that. So yeah, it's been great. It's definitely where my passion is to grow the farm. It's just we get along great, and it's a good team, good communication and transparency that everybody's kind of got each other's back. So with that, I guess I'll kind of lead into the next step of where I'm at today was with the way that our chopping business has grown and this collaboration that I'm in. I realized that I need to step away from day-to-day stuff with my original farm employer. And so at the beginning of 24 is when it took effect, but I don't really have any day-to-day employee responsibilities. They report to somebody else. I help them in the spring and the fall with, hey, these are the fields that are ready to be planted. This is where we should think about going for harvest. I'll make sure that we have a grain storage plan, a crop plan, inputs are in place. Your whole chemical list, here's the mixes that need to be sprayed. So I kind of just work on laying out the plan and then they execute it. And so with that, and I do the same thing in our collaboration, really. It's you won't see me in the tractor there. I'm more in the background and working on the marketing and input procurement and all that stuff, office stuff, which is what I like to do. And that's allowed me to free up a lot of time to work with AgView, which was something I really enjoy, the equipment side of it, the profit manager stuff, and maybe even more importantly, the peer groups and being involved in a peer group, which we started in 21. Yeah, I think it was 21 that we started that. So the what that peer group has done for our operation and for my wife Abby and I personally has been huge. So kind of want to pass that forward and help other groups and other producers in that process to bring the most value back to their farm as possible.
Help people get where they want to go,
Yeah,
or at
exactly.
least figure out where they want to go, you
Yep.
know? Is there anything else you'd like to share about your story that you think you would be valuable?
No, I don't think so. I guess the only thing I'd add real quickly is I am a first generation farmer. You know, my dad, he milked cows until the early 90s, and then he got out of it and took a job as a farm manager for Gerber actually. So there was no operation or nothing in place for me to go back to. So from day one of graduating college and still to this day, I said, you know what, I want to create the opportunity for our three boys to come back to the farm if they want to. But more importantly, if they decide they don't, we want to have an operation that we can pass on to the next generation. And that doesn't have to be family. If our kids decide, hey, we don't want to farm, let's pay that forward to another young guy at the time or gal that wants to, because that's what got us to where we're at was the collaboration that we're currently in. And without that, you know, we'd still be struggling more to grow and find opportunities.
That's awesome. Totally awesome.
Yeah, so I guess let's transition into you.
Oh
So
God.
let's we can start from the top. I think similar to how you did with me was college. So you want to give a little background on your education.
Yeah, so I graduated from high school in '98, and I you know, got accepted to Iowa State. I moved out there um, the fall of '98, and I went there '98, '99, did okay, hated it, absolutely hated college. And the first semester I was there, I started working for a farmer out in Boone, and just loved it. I mean, I you know, grew up on an 1,800-acre farm, and we had hogs and cattle, and like any farm boy, just was absolutely addicted to operating. I just loved to operate. That was, and I did a lot of operating for them. And so after my sophomore year, I kind of had always done what my parents thought I should do. And I had this epiphany. I was working for Seneca Foods, running a pea harvester, night shift. And one night in the middle of the night, I just had this epiphany that I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what I want to do. And I quit college, and I went to work for this farmer full time that I was working for out there in Iowa. And that lasted through the fall. And my dad, had always told me that there wasn't really room here at the farm. Yeah, we had 1,800 acres, but it was all cash rented just about. We had a small land base that we owned. It was all elderly landowners, or mostly. And he didn't want me to invest my youth into something that wasn't going to turn into anything. It came from a good place. But after working on that farm out there, he goes, well, if you're going to work on a farm, you might as well work on this one. He says, why don't you come back home, and we'll just see what happens. I make no guarantees. I can't rent you any land. You're going to have to drive truck, and you're going to take over all the spraying. He hated spraying. So that's what I did. I moved back home. I enrolled in the local junior college. Ended up loving that. I mean, got along fantastic there. Good people, met some fantastic individuals, went 2-part semesters and got my associate's degree in ag business management. And then continued to work on my own farm, or work on the farm here. Did trucked for the local grain elevator. Drove a lot of semi, and then in 06 we had a a friend that just decided that he was going to retire, and so he came to Dad and I, and he rented me 800 acres, and that was my start. And we just kind of evolved from there. And I got
Yes.
lucky, got really lucky. That was the right at the beginning of the ethanol boom. So I had a nice tailwind, and kind of helped me put some, be able to put a little bit of a foundation underneath me the first couple of years. And then eventually I bought my first self-propelled sprayer, and I started doing some more spraying, and started doing a bunch of custom spraying. I had a neighbor that's about 10 years older than me that was a good friend. He was a good friend to me right off the bat when I first moved home. And he was doing a lot of spraying, and he started giving me a little bit of work here and there, and I kind of got a taste for what that custom spraying was like. So then I started spraying a little bit more on my own. And, then a few more things kind of came up with the farm, and we started adding some more ground, and, things started to kind of take off.
Gotcha. So talk a little bit about when you rented that ground in '06. How did you guys structure that? Meaning you and your dad, and you were working for him full time. You get this opportunity to rent a significant amount of ground and be a good starting base for you. How did you guys work through that?
Yeah, excellent question. Quite simple, actually. He said, and this was my dad's idea. It was a fantastic idea. He says, I tell you what, um, I'm gonna, uh, I'm gonna do you the same favor that your grandfather did for me when I started farming. And he goes, you get to go find your own damn money. And, yeah. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you can go find your own money. And he says, I'm gonna help. He goes, I'll help you out a little bit with the machinery. So I did. I went and got my own operating note. I was able to use, at the time, they had a program through the FSA office. You could go through your local lender. He was a preferred lender. They got a 90% guarantee from the FSA office. So it was basically the FSA co-signed with me basically on the note. I was actually eligible for some interest assistance. The first 5 years I farmed, I don't think I paid over 0.75% in interest. And then on the machinery side, what my dad did is he goes, I'm going to pay you your salary throughout the year, so you don't have to borrow your salary. And then at the end of the year, you write me a check back for your entire salary, and that'll be the machinery. And it worked out to about, I forget what it was, about $75-80 an acre, I think, is what basically I ended up paying for the machinery. And I think at the time, Iowa State all in, all out was like 110. So he gave
Okay.
me a nice, I got a discount on the machinery. And then
Yeah.
the next year, um, we'd grown, and kind of outgrown the 16-row planter we had. We were running that sucker about 22 hours a day, trying to get everything done. So I bought our first 24-row planter, and then I ended up buying our first front wheel assist tractor. We had all 4-wheel drives before that. Row crop and tillage tractors were all 4-wheel drives. And then he stopped paying me my salary, and then I kind of started standing on my own, and then we started weaving our terrible web of machinery, you know, uh, like every other farm. You buy this, I'll buy that, we'll just make this kind of come out in the end. And we tried a whole bunch of different ways to do it before we landed on, the machinery LLC.
Yeah, what was the straw that kind of broke the camel's back on that? Because I think there's a lot of operations, including ours, that you start out that way. You buy this, I'll buy that, and we'll work together, we'll swap, we'll trade. And then I think everybody gets to that point of like, you know what, this is such a mess. I don't even can't even hardly keep track of what I own and what you own anymore.
Yeah. Well, I guess what happened was 2013, 14 timeframe, when machinery values really tanked.
Yep.
Um, my my dad, of course, all of his stuff was brand new, like, or just about new. And he was pretty aggressively trading things. And that stuff took a big hit. And we knew it, and we talked about it. We knew we needed to do something, because what we were doing is, if I farmed 40% of the acres and he farmed 60, I paid 40% of the fuel bill. I paid 40% of the labor bill. I paid 40% of the repair bill. I paid 40%
Yep.
of everything, but we made our own principal and interest payments on our own stuff.
Okay.
Well, since I was a new guy, and building, I had a lot of payments, and but that still didn't represent, like, I didn't have 40% of the value of the equipment, you know. And it wasn't 40%. The straw that actually broke the camel's back is there was 500 acres that came up for rent. It's kind of far away, and I rented it. And you know, I went to my dad and told him after he got home from Florida, hey, I rented this 500 acres, and that's really, really going to screw up our already big problem with this machinery. I'm aware of it. Let's get this figured out. So that first year, I think I just wrote him a check for a custom rate on that 500 acres on the stuff that he owned, I think.
Yep.
And then, and then, you know, enter Chris Barron into the picture. And he helped us, put everything in a machinery LLC, so that the cost of that machinery was more equally distributed across all the acres. Every acre pulled its own weight as far as the machinery went. And it just cleaned everything up. I mean, like, we immediately had some clarity on, okay, this is what we have.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Um, let's jump ahead a little bit and talk about collaboration and your custom spraying business. You kind of got a couple different things going on around those two areas. Why don't you dive in a little deeper and explaining what those look like?
So my neighbor, good friend of mine, that kind of got me started doing the custom spraying. We would kind of help each other out, if somebody got a little bit behind or whatever, he'd give you, I'd give him a few acres to spray, or he'd give me a few acres to spray, and we kind of worked back and forth like that. Well, of course, we both kept growing, and it got to the point where the invoicing was getting to be, I was doing all my own invoicing, he was doing all his own invoicing. And I had hired Sarah Werhane at that point, and we decided, hey, why don't we just work off of one chemical inventory? We'll just buy all the chemicals together, so that way, because before he had his chemicals, I had mine. If he ran short, he'd come get some from me, or vice versa. And then you had to track all that and try and pull that all apart. It was a mess. So we decided that we're just gonna buy the chemicals together, and we did that the first year. And we both did our own invoicing, and then we settled up on the chemicals. And that was still not good. That was, that still didn't work great. So then I came up with this idea, why don't we form an LLC that buys all the chemicals and and then collects all the money. It does all the invoicing. It'll invoice us for our own spraying. It'll invoice all of our customers for the application and everything. And then whoever sprayed it gets paid for it. And that's what we've kind of morphed into, is doing things that way. And that's actually working pretty good. We're in our third year here that collaboration. And we applied nitrogen, we side dress nitrogen, we applied nitrogen with a floater, we do pre-emerge spraying, post-emerge spraying. And then we sell a little bit of cash and carry chemicals too.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What other doors has having your custom application business opened, or what's been your biggest eye opener to the growth you've had there and the things that you've done?
Two things. The first is you know, the volume, volume. People like selling volume, and they will throw good deals out for volume. So, when we go in and buy 32%, we're buying 2,400 ton. You tend to get some decent pricing, for that. And so that's been huge, is just buying in bulk. That's
Right.
really saved us a lot of money. And then that money actually gets we have a standard margin that we put on the chemicals, which isn't much. So then all of our customers also get to enjoy that larger, it's the old co-op model,
Right. Right.
basically. The other thing is that it's opened some doors for renting some additional ground. We have some guys that are getting up in years and starting to think about retirement. And we've already, by doing their custom spraying and nitrogen application, we've already established a working relationship. They already know us. They already know how we work. There's a comfort zone there. And we've been able to rent some farms by just having started that relationship. So that's been
Great.
huge.
Yeah, that's great. What kind of what else do you want listeners to know, or things to be thinking about as we focus on your operation?
Um, again, like I said in the beginning, neither one of us are oracles of information, but we've had experiences, and been able to work through some challenges, and are interested in helping other people work through challenges as well. And like with my neighbor that I have this custom applicating business with, we are similar sized farms, and we've both are kind of bouncing on that, maxing out a class 8 combine, as far as what you can comfortably do with that. And then the next iteration to that is like adding a second grain cart to a 12-row combine, so that the thing never ever stops. Well, for each one of us to have 2 grain carts, we could just run the combines together, and then just each one of us supply a grain cart. There's our 2 grain carts. We can harvest much more efficiently if we harvest together. And then I also do a lot of strip tilling. He enjoys strip tilling. I do strip tilling for him. He does some custom drying for me. He also, pretty much runs the harvest show. Him and his stepson do an absolutely amazing job at it. And it allows me to concentrate on getting as much stripping done as I possibly can. And then I backfill whatever needs to be done. Sometimes, if it's raining, I'm not able to strip till I'm in a truck or I'm in a combine or I'm working on something in the shop. I'm just kind of a jack of all trades when it comes to that. But that's been huge. And we track everything. If he does something for me, he gets paid for it. If I do something for him, I get paid for it. We're kind of in that dating phase of collaboration. Our biggest challenge is management style differences. That's probably our largest challenge. And it's something that it's like a marriage. You just always got to be working on it.
Yeah. No, I think there's so much truth to that and so much importance in that, quote unquote dating phase of let's try this and see if it's going to work before we fully blown go into it. And I think some of these previous podcasts that I think you and Chris had one last week on the 3% better, that's kind of where my head it went right away was think of the capital savings and efficiencies you guys have gained, you and your neighbor have gained just by teaming up some and working together. And, it's little things like that that make a huge difference.
Well, like even when I decided I wanted to start strip tilling, I mean, that's like, to me anyway, it was literally like stepping off a cliff. And, is this going to work? I'd never done it before. I had no experience in it. I had an old chisel plow that was just totally roached out and needed to be replaced. And, I was able to, sell the chisel plow and put all that money I would have done on that, put it into the strip till bar. I still had this safety net of my neighbor had a chisel plow. If I needed something chisel plowed, he could help me with that in exchange for doing some strip tilling for him. And I was able to, kind of streamline my equipment line. And he didn't have to buy a strip till bar and go through all the, buy all the guidance stuff. Well, he did. I mean, he had for his planter. That was a rough process of, getting that all figured out. But in the end, it's worked out pretty decent.
No, that's great. That's great. Joe, is there any other last thoughts that you want to leave listeners with, or I guess kind of as we wind down here, conversation between the two of us that you think we need to add before we let everybody go?
I think we're both open books. If somebody has a question or wants to talk through something, pick up the phone, send an email. We love talking business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think as I got done and was interviewing you, you think of just some of the stuff you've gone through and crazy stories and stuff we did and stuff that didn't work. It's we could go on for another hour about each of our operations, but I think that's a good point of please reach out and let us know if you got questions or want more detail on exactly how we're doing stuff. As we're here to be an open book, we're here to help. We've had a lot of help along the way, and we're looking forward to helping others.
Amen. Well, Andy, this has been awesome. And thanks everybody for listening. And we'll catch you on the next podcast. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.